So, part 7. So, if none of us, concerned citizens, get into Parliament, and Parliament is riddled with corruption and abuse and bankruptcy and incompetence, the system is just going to perpetuate. Instead of Rothschild and Rockefeller owning $600 trillion worth of assets and revenue, they'll own $660 trillion worth of revenue and assets and so forth. And the corporates will just consolidate even more. So all of those hard-working small businessmen that think they're doing the best job that they can do will one day get bigger and bigger and bigger, like Woolworths. Perfect example. Started, 7,500 years ago? Everything for a penny, everything for a pound. And they went bankrupt last year, didn't they? And somebody bought up Woolworths' assets, or in Boscombe's case, left the shop shut. Right, just packed it all off and closed down their business. Someone like W.H. Smith would then step into Woolworths' market and start selling the stuff that Woolworths used to sell, probably for more money. Right, so Woolworths closed. Someone like W.H. Smith will take over, and the corporate world again comes into a pyramid. All the independents down the bottom, and then all the independents are shut down or forced out of business or go bankrupt or whatever, and then somebody picks up the business, probably another company higher up in the echelon of the pyramid, and those jobs the people that had those jobs in Woolworths sign on. That increases the benefit bill and so on. So that's the way they work. You can't run your business, you go bankrupt. You can't make money, you go bankrupt. Somebody picks up your business, and gradually you get smaller. You get less and less companies owning the business that used to be with half a dozen companies, and there are 2, and then one of those companies go bankrupt or gets bought out by a bigger fish, the little fish swallowed up, and so on. You saw it last year with the banks. RBS and Lloyds and NatWest and all the other banks consolidated. Lloyds TSB, good example. You had 2 companies, one called Lloyds, one called TSB. They merged, became one. And that process carries on. It just, you go from 5,000 to 500 to 50 to 5 to 1. And that's how it goes. So instead of worth $660 trillion, the global elites become worth 720 trillion. And that kind of growth is great for the global elites. It's great for the rich people, but for people like me on the dole, for people in hospital, for people working hard as carpenters and policemen, stopping people and nicking their vans, no good at all. Because we don't know that this is all going on. We as a people, 98, 99% of us don't know what's going on. We're just happy to watch football, we're happy to watch EastEnders, we're happy to watch X Factor, and all that kind of stuff. And they're banking on that ignorance. They don't want you to know the truth. They don't want you to know that the whole world is owned by 2 people. They don't want you to know that the banks have consolidated into 6 from 60. They want you to watch the football. They want you to watch X Factor. They want you to take your kids for a walk down the park, because they're not getting challenged. They, being the global elite, robot drones, whatever you want to call them. Right? They want you to live in ignorance. They want you to just blindly pay the cash on demand whenever they ask for it. Every month you pay out £300 on your electric bill, for example. And we, the people, are expected to pay that money because they're banking on it, because the bankers have said to the government, we'll lend you the money if you put in place these policies, these statutes, this legislation, this law, in quotes, to rob the people of their money. So you go down the road at 66 mile an hour in a 60 mile an hour zone, and a copper with a radar catches you. You go to court and you pay a fine on speeding. But there's no one else in the road. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. The motorway is, you're just flying along at 66 mile an hour. And oh look, there's a camera. Bush. And that's how they get their extra money. They just rob you. I'm not going to go into paying it or not paying it. For this video, it's irrelevant. What is not irrelevant is the reasons why someone needs to get into government to change it, to fundamentally reform this process, this government, this relationship between us as the people, the taxpayer, the electorate, the voter, the government, and the corporates, the Federal Reserve System, the government that pays the bank all its cash, and then the bank lends the government the money to pay the bills, and all that kind of stuff. That needs to fundamentally change. Now, government at the moment is represented by the parties, it's represented by the Tories, it's represented by Labour, it's represented by Lib Dems, and it's not working. On the one hand, you pay the government all your cash, and then the political party expects you to pay its membership fees. That's fine. You want to be a Tory member? Fine, pay them £5 a month to help them get elected. Fine, that's brilliant. But when you can't tell the difference between the political parties, because they're all in the same game, they're all playing the same game by the same rules, profit over people, rob the people of everything that they got to pay off the bankers, things start to get a bit problematic. They get unreal. And that needs to change, because we the people have 2 laws. We have company law, which is the government statutes. You do 66 mile an hour in a 60 mile an hour zone, you're entitled to be fined, because the government have decided that going over the speed limit is bad. Fair enough. If you have an accident, if you don't have an accident, they shouldn't be fined, because you haven't caused any harm. And that's the conflict between common law, the law that we've had for 1,000 years, and government law, government legality, legislation, statutes, the Welfare Reform Act, the Communications Act, the Human Rights Act, all of that kind of stuff is designed to rob you of your cash. Now that needs to change, and the only way I believe, either we do like Guy Fawkes did and try to destroy Parliament with gunpowder and riots and violence and all that kind of stuff. That's been tried for thousands of years. Probably the first guy that died because somebody killed him. Murdered. Right. Violence is not the key. You can learn boxing, you can learn karate, you can pick up an AK-47 and shoot someone. That's fine. But that creates another problem. It creates the problem of murder. Now I'm going to stop this again and start up for part 8, sorry.